This lesson we're going to be creating a simple button with a click counter that's going to be incrementing the click values. So we're going to have a counter that's going to be global variable value that's going to increment every time the button is clicked, and then updating the text output as well as outputting it into the console. So that's all coming up in this lesson. Let's go ahead and we're going to update some of our HTML. So within the output container, let's create a button and give the button an ID so that way we can select the button. And this can just be my BTN. So we can select the button. It's got to have a unique ID. And for the button text, let's write click me. And then we want to have an output area. So this can just be a paragraph just underneath the button. And we'll give this one also an ID and set it up as my text. It's going to be the output area where we're going to be adding content into. And this is all going to be done with jQuery. I've linked to the Google API for the CDN for jQuery, so that brings jQuery into the page. In order to check if you have jQuery, you can add in the $, and if you do get a response back, or you can type in jQuery, and if you do get a response back, that means that your jQuery library is active. I've got the JavaScript code below the jQuery, so make sure that you do have jQuery above, and then the JavaScript code below, so that we can link to the JS library where we can write our jQuery. So now open up the JS file, and what we want to do is we want to select the button. So that's selecting the button. We're using the hash in order to make the selection, and then the button ID that we set. So this selects the button object. You can also select it and output it into the console. So that returns back the button. So you can make sure that you are selecting it properly. And then the event that we want to add onto it is going to be a click event. And within the click event, go ahead and create a function. And we're going to have the function do something whenever the button is clicked. So for now, we'll just output into the console, and we'll just output the word click. So let's see what happens now. So now we've made the button clickable. We're running the code within the scope, function scope, whenever the button gets clicked. So what we want to do is when the button gets clicked, we want to update the text. And I'm also going to add in a counter. So set the counter to be 0. So every time it gets clicked, we're going to increment the counter by 1. So let's add that in as well. So we're adding and incrementing the counter. And I'm going to output the counter into the console. So now it should be always changing. We should have a different number. And we want to output this counter into the paragraph that was below. So just as we selected the button, let's go ahead and select the paragraph. And the paragraph we had given an ID value of my text. So selecting that using the string representation of that value, my text. And we can update the text value with whatever string content that we want. So in this case, we're going to write the counter. And we'll just write the value for click. And then add whatever we've got the value for counter. So now whenever we click it, we're updating the output value that's being shown within the HTML. So code created, we created a button and a paragraph, and then we used the jQuery selector in order to select the items with the ID of my button, and also to get the text area with my text. We used the click function in jQuery that adds a click event listener to the button that we selected, to the element that we selected. And that functions as an argument, and it gets executed. This argument within that function is what gets executed whenever it gets clicked. So the inside function that we're using for the selector is going to be returning back and updating the text content. So that's where the text value there is. So whenever the button gets clicked, the jQuery method changes the text within the selected element. And in this case, it's just outputting the clicked counter. So when the button is clicked, we update the paragraph value. And it will continue to count. If you refresh the page, it will reset back to 0 because it's only stored within this instance of the browser window. Go ahead and try it for yourself.